If you could use the brain power, skill set, and resources of other people to accomplish your goals, would you? Today's guest is going to show us how to understand and unleash the power of the mastermind. Welcome to Havilah and Friends. I'm your host, Havilah Malone, and every week I bring you inside my amazing world of mindfulness teachers, inspirational speakers, business experts, celebrities, and so much more to have the conversations that matter to you. And today's guest is the founder of the Think and Grow Rich International Mastermind Association. And for over 40 years, she served as the president and CEO of one of South Florida's only African-American owned construction companies, McNeil Construction. She's been featured in Black Enterprise, on USA Today, and ABC World News, and in Think and Grow Rich for Women. Please welcome my good friend, Ann McNeill.
Thank you. Thank you, Havilah.
Yes, indeed. I'm so excited to have you on the show today to talk about one of my favorite subjects, and that is around being a part of and using the mastermind. And just kind of to set a baseline to help people to understand like what we're talking about. What is a mastermind?
Well, Havilah is actually one of our favorite subjects. And a mastermind, very simply, is a small group of individuals who come together of like mind and like spirit. We have both, not one or the other, but like mind and like spirit to hold each other accountable in achieving a particular goal.
Yes.
That's simply it. It can be a family, friends, it can be co-workers, it can be strangers, but as long as you have like minds and like spirits and you're going in the same direction, it's a mastermind group.
So with a like mind and a like spirit, then you are in a mastermind together. And so for that process, because this is something that goes all the way back to a very popular book that we both know and love. And there's been so many versions of this book that have come out, but this is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. And so for you, what was your process to learning about that mastermind principle? Like, how did you come into this?
Well, Havilah, on December 31st, 1979, exactly at 9 p.m., and I remember because it was New Year's Eve, and my husband and friends decided to go out and celebrate the new year. I decided to stay home and read a book. And the book was Think and Grow Rich. But Havilah, as I began to read the book began to read me. And on page 28 of the version that I had, the questions that came to me from Napoleon Hill gave me what is now known as the 6 steps to riches. And so with your permission, I'd like to mention those. Is that okay?
I would love it. Please share those 6 steps to riches.
Yes. And so the first question Napoleon Hill asked me, Ann McNeill, because I made it personal, he asked me, Ann, how much money do you want? I never thought about it before. So in my mind, I said $1,000. The second question he asked me was, what are you willing to do in return for the money? I didn't know any better, so I said, save it, which of course, I found out later that was the wrong answer. The third question he asked me was, by what date? And I decided, since this was December 31st, 1979, that I wanted to have that money by December 31st, 1980. But the fourth question, Havilah, was for me to write a detailed action plan of exactly how I was going to get the money and start right now. So I figured, listen, I'm home alone. It's New Year's Eve. I have nothing else to do. And I actually, in my mind, I said, I make this much, I spend this much. I got a negative number. So it cannot be right. So I took out a sheet of paper and I wrote it down. I said, I make this much, I spend this much. The negative number was bigger. I said, this cannot be right. I took out a calculator, I did the math, and the negative number was, of course, bigger. And that night I realized that I knew I was broke, Havilah, but I really did not know how bad. So I decided, I said, listen, why don't I just, pull out all my canceled checks from the previous months, 11 months, and really look at where's the money going. So I did a little handmade, this was a long time ago, so this was before Excel.
Right, where everything was handwritten at that point.
That's right. So I took out a sheet of paper and I drew the lines, a pretend Excel, and then I wrote the columns, the date, the payee, the amount, and where did I spend the money? And January I got a negative, February negative, March. I don't even
And talk a little bit louder so we can hear you. Yeah.
Every month it was a negative. January, February, March, all negative. And I said, this cannot be right. Why? I did not want to face the woman in the mirror, to really, for the first time in my adult life, to acknowledge that I was broke. But not just broke, hopeless, because that night I sat there and I could find no way out of this process. So I figured, what else could I do? Just continue to read. So he goes on, he says, the fifth step to riches is to create an affirmation statement. The sixth step is to repeat it twice a day. So I sat there that night and I wrote out a little statement that basically said I would like to save $1,000 money, but I could not save $1,000 because I was not properly managing. So I said I would like to make $1,000 a year. This was outside of my income from my job. And by the end of the year, be able to save that money. Well, that was my introduction to Think and Grow Rich. But I sat there that night, Havilah, and I actually cried after going through that math. And now it's 4:00 in the morning. My husband and friends are just coming in from celebrating the new year. I'm sitting there crying. And of course, he thinks I'm crying over him. So I let him. The next morning, I got up and I continued to read the book. And Havilah, I have continued in that book to this day, literally. But let's fast forward now.
And before we fast forward, I just really want to be able to pay acknowledgement to that process, those 6 steps, by you sitting down, taking the time, putting down on paper, the math, really understanding where you were and making a decision of where you wanted to be. Exactly. It helped to put you onto this trajectory or a path, because a lot of times we are not taught how to manage money, how to grow money, how to invest money, any of those things. And we're just taught to live check to check, save and pay. And that's pretty much it a lot of times what the basic financial education is. But through this process, it made you start looking at things a little bit differently, getting a reality check on what the situation was, so that you really could start to move forward in the direction you wanted your life to go.
Exactly. And what I'm learning, Havilah, in all of these years, is not a destination. It's a journey.
Yes.
And on that journey, not only am I continuing to learn, one of my favorite authors, Charlie Tremendous Jones, he says that, we will be the same in 5 years as we are today, except for 2 things: the books we read and the people we meet. And that particular book helped me to change my mindset, first of all, about how I see myself. How I saw myself then is very different from how I see myself now, in terms of knowing that it's possible. So now I'll fast forward over 30 years later from the process and creating a system, which of course I call the McNeil Factor, of course, right? that is a part of that self-discovery, but not only the self-discovery, but how do we hit the number, you see? And so now, 30 years later, I'm sitting here in front of you and all of your listeners and viewers as the first Black female contractor in the state of Florida, operating at the level that we do, because now we focus on billion-dollar programs. So to go from being broke and broken to shifting the mindset, same body, the same body, but the difference is my mindset in knowing it's possible, and then taking the time and surrounding myself with strategic partners that I'm able to help add value to them, and they're able to help add value to me through the mastermind process.
Yes, and that is such a testament to go from 1979 creating a goal around saving $1,000
a year.
Now, in 1 year, $1,000 in 1 year, to fast forwarding to 2019, and you work on billion-dollar and multi-billion-dollar projects. That is such a huge, there's such a big gap in that thinking process,
Thinking.
the habits, the things that are actually being done to be able to get those type of results. And so you talk about being able to come together to collaborate and use that mastermind principle. So the International Mastermind Association, how was that birthed, and how have people been using that mastermind to actually accomplish their goals as well?
Well, actually, Havilah, the following morning when I got up and I continued to read the book, right, to go back and then come forward, I became so excited about the chapter on the mastermind concept when Napoleon Hill said, you know, whatever it is you want to achieve, help others to achieve the same, right? And so I began to give the book away to friends, you know, birthdays, marriage, children's birth, children's birthday, any reason you were going to get this book. And eventually, because I desired to start a mastermind group, eventually certain friends started saying, you know, I started reading that book and I kind of like it. So I said, why don't we just come together and do what the book says, which is actually we started with just the 6 steps. And so eventually we had 10 women, and every single Saturday we would each walk through the 6 steps for ourselves, commit to each other a goal, come back the next Saturday, 7 o'clock, every single, when I tell you 72 weeks out of the year, 7 a.m., we rotated each other's homes, and we met for a solid 10 years. Now, the International Mastermind Association was born out of that because our friends and family members kept saying, what are you doing? You're changing. How can I do that? And so one thing led to another, and we realized we needed to create a process that was duplicatable. And we needed to put it inside of an environment where others could come and also be held accountable. But one thing we learned, people don't respect that which they don't pay for. Let me say that again. We don't
Yes.
respect that which we do not pay for. So we created
You gotta put a dollar value on it, and when people
yes,
invest in themselves, they have more value and they have a more mental concept of this has value when you got
exactly.
pay for it.
Exactly. And all of our lives were demonstrating value because one of the young ladies, she was actually graduating from college. She then, you know, ended up getting her master's, her PhD, and her desire was to become a principal. She published 15 books. I could go on and on about each one of the individuals in that group. My favorite story, if I may, was one of the young ladies. When we would go around and say, what do you want to do to make the money? She said, you know what? When I was in high school, I was a majorette. This is why you never judge people. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, a majorette? What do you do with that? I didn't say it, but I'm thinking it. And so I said, okay, you are a majorette. What would you like to do? She said, well, I was thinking every summer we had to go from South Florida to North Florida to camp. She said, you know, I'd love to start a South Florida camp for those girls so that they would not have to go all the way to North Florida. And she said, you know, the other thing too is they have no Black judges. I would like to become the first competition judge. 1 year later, she became the first competition judge. She did her first camp at Don Shula's property here in South Florida. She made more money in a summer camp than she, yes, than she,
Yes, indeed.
yes, than she made on her full-time job. Yes,
That is such proof
yes,
that when you have a set goal, when you set your mind to something specific that you want and you utilize, because every week you come in at those Saturday mornings at 7 a.m.
yes,
and going through those 6 steps, you answering those questions,
yes,
going through and reviewing the plan, you know, your action steps for that week, you know, going through that process is going to keep you on track to ensure. So within a year, she was able to earn, first of all, do what she dreamed. She
yes.
accomplished
Her
her dream,
passion, her
then
passion.
earn more
Yes,
than she did in the whole year.
yes, yes. Now let me fast forward now. Let me fast forward over 10 plus years later. If you Google Camp Kanya, her name is Tanya Jackson. She was a young mother at the time. She now, last time I saw her, she had just received a grant from the state of Florida for $1 million. She has a staff of individuals. And she has done a phenomenal job in her practice. But this is all from the International Masterminders, just founders. And I can go through each one of those people I won't, but I just want to give you a couple of examples of what the process has done. And foundationally, it has built families. It has touched literally millions of lives, because what's happening is that these individuals that come through, they're impacted by the impact that we have as we continue to impact. Now, I speak to children in schools. That's just something that now I tell this story. Last month, for the first time in telling this story, I had a young lady in the audience in high school to raise her hand. And of course, we asked her if she wanted to make a comment. She said, "Yes, ma'am, Miss McNeill, I want to let you know I am one of Tanya Jackson ladies in her camp." And the room just went south. Class full of high school students. But my point is, we never know the lives we touch through our struggle. Now, this is my point about Think and Grow Rich and the mastermind concept. If I had not had the struggle, I could not have the success that we're all experiencing. And I want to challenge everybody who's listening to this, Havilah. Whatever you're struggling with, help somebody else get through your struggle, through their struggle, which may be the same struggle, because you will never know the lives you save financially, spiritually, all kinds of ways, because this has come to us, but it's not about us. It's not for us. It's for those who we can help. But we've got to create a process to duplicate that. So
Yeah.
that's my international masterminders. You know, we're at internationalmasterminders.com, and it is growing. You know, we have our annual meeting for your life once a year in January, first Saturday in January, and it's phenomenal.
And tell them about your Blog Talk Radio show, where every week you go into different chapters within Think and Grow Rich, and to be able to break down all of the principles of success, not just the power of the mastermind, but each and every one of those principles every week.
Absolutely. And we have awesome people that come on, like Miss Havilah Malone, the queen. I call her the queen. So yes, so for over 10 years, we have actually literally walked through the chapter every single month, a different chapter. And we have different members that come on. We have masterminders that come on. We have all kinds of guests and team of hosts that come on. And we talk about our own experience with the chapter. And we listen to, you know, individuals that come on and share their experiences. But when I tell you it has been life-changing, this Saturday past, we had a lady that came on, and this is 8 a.m. Eastern time on Blog Talk Radio. We call it International Masterminders, Think and Grow Rich. And a lady came on, she pressed 1 and dialed in for the first time. She said, "I have been listening for years." Wow. She said, "This was the first time I got up the nerve to call in to let you know how I'm blessed, and I can't wait to listen to your show every single Saturday." So we just never know, but we just keep doing it. We just keep doing it and building that community.
I love that. And then too, for individuals who are interested in being able to, hey, you say, you know what, I want to be able to get some folks together and do a mastermind and utilize this principle. First and foremost, we definitely encourage you to get a copy of the book, Think and Grow Rich. But Ann, I want you to share with people, when it comes to the individuals that you invite to be a part of a mastermind, what are some tips you can give to our viewers on who you want to be a part of your mastermind?
Well, you know, I would always suggest and encourage us. Iron sharpens iron. Iron cannot sharpen paper. So when you think of individuals, it can be your best buddy. But if they're not able to sharpen you and be very honest with you in terms of accountability, I would not suggest that you consider having them in a mastermind group, because one of the challenges people have is that once they get people in, they can't get them out. Once they get them in, you cannot get them out. This is one of the reasons why we created a process, a documented process on how to start and run an effective mastermind group. So if you put people in, you have a way to get them out. Yes, thank you.
Yes, you have your international mastermind workbook.
Thank you.
So if you're not willing to do the work, then this is not the process for you.
And as you probably know by now, Havilah, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
That's a lot of work, and you really have to be ready, and you really need to have accountability. But when you're thinking about starting a mastermind group, think of individuals who you can hold accountable, and they have specific goals. And I like to always suggest if their goals really should be quantifiable and measurable. That's one of the reasons why I am learning that the value that Napoleon Hill placed by putting the 6 steps to riches in the front of the book. Oftentimes people say, well, I'm not interested in the money. You know, I want to be a philanthropist. And my response is make the money, then give it away. Make the money, learn how to make it, and then give it away. Because it is not about the money, it is who we become in the process. I have to say that one again. It's not about the money, it is really who we become in the process of learning how to earn it and how to make it. But equally as important, how to make it grow. So coming back again to, if you decide to start a mastermind group, think of individuals who are like-minded and like-spirited. You must have both. You can't have one and don't have the other. You must have both if you expect to have not just success, but great success. One of our mastermind groups that was just forming now, that came out of the International Mastermind annual meeting from January, it was 7 individuals that were in the room. And so they came to me and said, you know, we'd like to start a group. I said, you don't have enough people. They said, what do you mean? There's 7 of us and we just met. I said, you don't have enough. They said, well, what do you think? I said, you should have at least 15 to 20 people. Oh my gosh, 15. I said, listen, if you want 7 to 8 that will do it right now, start with 15 to 20. Havilah, they had a meeting this morning, 7 a.m. They started with 20. Guess how many people are on that call?
About 7 to 8.
7 to 8. And the irony is, people who you think will won't, people who you think won't will, and it may not be ready for them right now. If you want to do this right now, be willing to be open to the universe. Yes, I do pray, and I would say pray about it and ask the Spirit to draw every spirit that is like you to hold you accountable. It works, but only if you work it. But that would be the foundation of how I would suggest an individual would start. And if you want more information, of course, you can reach out to me. And we are on Facebook, is probably the best place, because we do have a Think and Grow Rich International Mastermind Association Facebook page, which is a good place to just let us know you're interested, and then we can follow up with you from there. But there's just so much to be said. And of course, Havilah, you are an excellent example. And hopefully before the show is over, we can get to share our story, because our story is a very good example of drawing by the Spirit when you pray for the Spirit to draw.
Absolutely. It was such a blessing to be able to meet you and for us to be drawn to each other, literally that law of attraction, because of being of like spirit and of like mind. And so we've had the opportunity to be within, you know, several different masterminds together and work together on some amazing projects. And that all started, I think it was back in 2013 or 2012, somewhere around that time frame in Naples, Florida. I will never forget, as we were at the Ritz-Carlton in Naples, Florida, for this huge networking event for business professional women. And I remember being behind the computer in the business office, and I hear someone on the phone, and they're talking about Think and Grow Rich. Like, and I hear Think and Grow Rich, and my ears like perk up, and I'm like, wait, hold up. What? So now I'm ear dropping, ear hustling. Conversation, and I hear this person is ordering, you know, like, make sure you bring out this many copies of Think and Grow Rich. And so as soon as the conversation was over, I, you know, politely get on up and, you know, try to make a conversation. I'm like, so, you know, I hear you, you know, ordering some copies of Think and Grow Rich. And I'll never forget your response to me was like, so what do you know about Think and Grow Rich? And I was like, and so I started sharing my history of my Think and Grow Rich journey and story. And then come to find out, this person who I was talking to was featured in several different versions of Think and Grow Rich, was the founder of the Think and Grow Rich International Masterminders Association, Miss Ann McNeill herself. And we, like, that day that we connected, we have been connected ever since. And it literally has been an amazing journey. You know, we've gone on to certifications with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, you know, working very closely with Don Green and his team. You know, I went on to co-author the children's version, bringing those 17 principles of success to kids around the world through The Amazing Adventures of Oliver Hill, which is based off on Think and Grow Rich, and just so many amazing things that have happened, and so much I've learned from Ann McNeill. And so when you come from the right place, and you start to walk in your purpose, you will start to attract the right people to mastermind with. You'll start to attract the right people to network and connect with that will help you along your journey, because it's a beautiful journey, in fact. So thank you so much, Ann. I love you from the bottom of my heart. You are amazing, and the impact that you're making on this world will last for generations to come. That I know.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I just have to just share with your listeners, just imagine if I had not had a struggle. Come on now. Just imagine if I quit. Just imagine if I did not believe strongly that you try the Spirit by the Spirit. We were two total strangers. We were strangers. But the Spirit connected us as if we were blood relatives or stronger than that. And that's what I'm saying. This concept is so powerful. Everybody can't do this. And when people, like Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. Let them go. Don't try to pull them. Well, you know, this can really help you. Let me pay for your book. Let me pay for this. No. You end up paying in more ways than one. So I just want to just make sure that as we go on this journey, Havilah, that your listeners understand you and I were two total strangers. Come on now. But what if you did not have the Napoleon Hill experience and a struggle or a trial or whatever we want to call it, and I had not had one to bring us to the point to where now we're here talking to. Literally, I am professing that this will be impacting millions of lives to come way after we are gone. This is powerful. Powerful. So I don't want to get off onto that. You know.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on today and sharing your story. And we know that when we share our stories, we get to live, to learn, and to love a little bit more. And I want you to be proof of what's possible. I'm your host, Havilah Malone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Havilah and Friends, and we can't wait to see you next week.